What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Who Gives a Dram, episode 103. 103 episodes down. Um, we are joined today by somebody that I've wanted to have on the show for a bit now. We haven't really known each other for that long of a time, but like when I found her on Instagram, I was just kind of like infatuated with the, her username, and then we spoke a little bit and she seemed cool as shit, so I wanted to get her on the podcast. As you can see, we are on Zoom because she is in Los Angeles, California, or in that area, right? You're right around LA.
San Diego. Yeah,
San Diego, that's what I meant. Shit.
there it is.
How can I screw that up? Because San Diego, well, first of all, Anchorman is San Diego. And second of all, San Diego, from what I hear, has literally the best weather in the country. Like it's
Yeah,
75, 80 degrees, sunny every single day. Is that true?
that is true. I mean, it's winter now or fall, and so in the morning it can be like 50 degrees and people have their winter jackets on. So, but it gets into the low 70s and it's sunny most of the day.
That's how it is here too. It's like in the morning there'll be frost on the car or on the truck. And then during the day it'll get up to like 55 this time of year, maybe 60, and then at night it'll be like 30. And then you just get
Yeah.
like I always get sick this time of year because it's like the drop in pressure and temperature changes. It just fucks with my sinuses. So I and you know how guys are when we get sick. It's a big deal.
It's the world ends, sky's falling. I mean, my mom just sent me a picture because my family's all back in Chicago, well, suburbs of Chicago, and I
Mhm.
think they have like 2 inches of snow on the ground. So I'm
Yeah.
not mad.
Yeah, no, I heard about that. That's pretty insane for early November, but or mid-November, I guess now. But anyways, I know her as Amy. You guys will know her as the Liquid Pharmacist on Instagram. And Amy, before we get into like all of the details about what you're up to and starting Instagram and everything, I kind of want to know a bit more about you. Like where do you come from? How'd you get into the pharmaceutical industry? Because you run your own pharmacy, and you know what transitioned and what made you think maybe I should start an Instagram dedicated to whiskey.
Well, I mean, to bring it all the way back, I'm a 90s baby. I was born in 1990, the youngest of 7 kids. My mom had 7 kids in 10 years, and we were all born at home and homeschooled.
Wow.
So that's where my life started, a very simple beginnings. And we just, my parents were like, well, we're too poor to pay for your college. So you either better be really smart or really good at sports. And I ended up being really smart. So I went to school. I grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and my parents still, I mean, my mom still lives in that same house that I was born in. So I get to visit that, which is fun. And um, when I got my undergrad in biochemistry and I got my doctorate in pharmacy. My dad was pretty sick. I mean, a lot of people who know me know my dad passed away September this year, so just 2 months ago. And he but growing up, he had a double lung transplant when I was 14 years old. So he had lived for 18 years with new lungs. And just kind of growing up, he didn't smoke or anything. He just had an autoimmune disease which attacked his lungs. It's actually the same thing that Bernie Mac, the comedian, died of. It's called sarcoidosis.
Wow,
So
interesting.
yeah, so all that to say, I was surrounded, by medicine and sickness most of my childhood, and I kind of didn't shy away from it. Wanted to dive into it and became a pharmacist. And now this is where it gets interesting, how I
Oh,
ended up in California. So, I had just gotten out of a really bad relationship. with a PGA Tour player. And
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Nice.
So
Well,
yeah,
not
not
nice, not nice.
he he followed in the footsteps of Tiger Wood like a little too literally with you
Mm,
can connect the dots there. And
yeah.
that
I
didn't
gotcha.
work out. I didn't crash my car or anything, but yeah, I walked out of that one. But then I met someone. So never done online dating. Didn't choose to do it. My sisters, I have three sisters, three brothers. I'm the baby. And
Mhm.
my sisters made me a Christian Mingle dating profile without my knowledge. Yeah. So lo and behold, they're like, oh, by the way, here you go. And it was horrible, absolutely horrible. Well, I ended up meeting someone who was in San Diego, a military person, and we had the brilliant idea, as most military couples do, to get married right away. So I got married 58 days after I met this person. Yeah. So it gets better. Don't worry. And got married. So I flew out to San Diego, um, met him. He flew back to Illinois, proposed, and then flew back to Illinois one more time, and we got married. So the three times that we had seen each other was met, proposed, married. So clearly, school smarts, not so much street smarts. Um, and then after I got married and moved to San Diego, I was married for a couple years, and that didn't work out, as a lot of the military things don't, and relationships that go from strangers to married in 58 days. But that leads me into how I got into whiskey. Is I got divorced, and I was like, what does a 30-year-old divorced Chicagoan in San Diego get into? And I was like, well, we got the whiskey house. Like, I'll try that. And I started going to the whiskey house out here, which is, they have like 4,000 bottles. They're the Guinness World Record holder for the most whiskeys, and just kind of got into it slowly and took a trip to Kentucky for 7 days and went to like 17 distilleries and just absolutely fell in love with the entirety of it. And I was like, well, all right, I guess I started posting a little bit on my personal page, and my sweet, sweet mother was like, honey, we know you got divorced, and your aunts are just wondering why you're posting so much alcohol. Because she's just a sweet Midwestern woman. And she's like, maybe don't post so much alcohol. We know you're going through a tough time. I'm like, all right, so it's time to start a different channel. So I started the Liquid Pharmacist so I could post whiskey without my aunts calling my mom thinking I'm having a breakdown. And that leads me to being on Who Gives a Dram in my lovely bathroom.
There is there is so much to digest
Yeah.
from that. Okay, so the first thing I'm thinking is you're telling me the story while you're sitting in your bathroom, and that alone is just is just is something else. So this was fairly recent then, because your Instagram account is not. It's what, 8 months, 6 months?
Yeah, something like that. I haven't. I mean, I went to Kentucky in March, and that was the first
Oh,
time I'd been to Kentucky, and I
I
started
just
after
missed you.
that.
I was in
Yeah.
Kentucky in February. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's so okay. We're gonna dive into this just a hair. So what was this is one of those parts. Remember when I told you before the podcast, or like, if I gotta edit this out, we can edit this out. But I'm curious now. You've piqued my
I'm an
interest.
open book.
So you met this guy, and then the next time you saw this guy, he proposed, and you said yes. And then the next time you saw him, you got married, or did you get
Yes.
annulled or
No, we
eloped?
got
whatever it
No,
is.
we had like a legit wedding in a church.
Holy Jesus Christ. Okay, so what goes through what okay, that's fascinating to me. So how I was just listening to a podcast the other day about it, one part of the podcast, not the whole podcast, but one part was about like do you think like people have soulmates? Do you think like that is a real thing? Thing is made up. So were you like this like you met this guy and you were just like this guy's my soulmate and I have to marry him?
I it was, I mean, I feel bad saying it now because it just makes me look bad. I don't want to say like I was like, well, I went from one extreme of like the insane PGA Tour player who was just out doing like sins against humanity, just horrible things. Like when it all came to light, it was just like, oh my goodness, there are evil people in the world.
Mm.
And I mean, I was raised Christian, and so like I thought like when I met someone who like loved the Lord and all that, like that was just that was the most important thing, and like other things like would fall into place. But and since I met him and he was like, oh yeah, I love God and this and that, and I go to church all the time, I was just kind of like, well, that's what I was raised to think like was the right thing to do. So I kind of it was more so a thing of I'm the most logical human being that I know. Like I think very analytically about everything. And for me, I was like, well, check on all these things that I thought like were criteria for a future partner. And a lot of the red flags, I kind of just was like, oh, well, that won't become an issue. And it was just like magnified immediately. And two, you just don't know someone because everyone puts their best foot forward as you should, but that's where time comes in. You have to give time to get to know someone and see them when they're sick and see how they treat a waiter and all of that stuff, which I didn't do because I was just like so ready. I had bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship. And I was just like, I finally met someone who treated me well, which was probably the bare minimum. I was just so used to like absolute horrendous conditions. And I was like, this is amazing. So, you live and you learn. And I'd never lived outside my parents' home. I lived at home till I was 26 and just went to school. So, I mean, there's something to be said about life experience of going away and being on your own. And I just didn't have it. But I mean, you live and you learn.
Yeah, no, you definitely live and you learn. And I think that I guess what the wild part is to me is that you never experienced, well, you barely experienced each other. But you barely experienced that the realness of like everyone has the lovey-dovey stage 6 months, plus after you start a relationship where everything's perfect and you're in love with the person and then maybe things start to change and you learn to adapt with them. If they're a good person, you can see their flaws and still accept them for who they are. Obviously, if they're a bad person, like this PGA Tour guy, then sometimes the newness and the that aspect clouds your judgment. But you never and the fascinating part about that is you never like had that experience. And I, not to get all philosophical here, this is not where I thought this podcast was going to go, but here we are. Um, I recently started talking to someone and we were like, she was like, why? I've only been in like one kind of real relationship in my life. She's like, well, why? And was like, well, if I'm going to get into a relationship with somebody, it has to be someone where like I can like wake up next to you each and every day because I live by myself right now. So I'm like, I'm used to being alone. My parents are right down the road. I got my whole family's around here. But I'm used to being alone, for the most part. And I told her like, listen, I'm not gonna get into something with someone like unless like I can wake up next to them every single day and be happy that they're there, like every single day from the first time to 30 years down the road. That's how I think it should be. And I just haven't met someone like that. So that's why I haven't, I haven't done anything. Like I haven't been in that many relationships because I feel like that's a legit that's a very serious commitment. Um I don't know even know how to put what I want to say right now, but um, do you regret that? Do you regret moving that quick?
I mean, I try not to regret things because I kind of feel like everything that
You
happens in your life.
you learn from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think if I didn't have such like a intense jarring experience like that I would have made good decisions because I kept dating not the right person and not the right person. And I mean, my middle name is Joy. My name is Amy Joy, and actually funny enough, my blood type is B positive. So like I've always been a happy person. Like it's literally in my DNA.
It's the most
And
Midwestern
so
name of all time, Amy Joy.
Amy Joy, and it's AIMEE, not even, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like my thing is I'm just like I want to care about people. My dad always said like I just had the heart of a servant. I love to love and care, and that's why I went into the medical field because I want to help people. And unfortunately, you know, you meet people who aren't good people and they see that in you and they just would take advantage of it. And for me, I always try and think, you know, people are having a bad day, people are doing this, people are doing that, and I just should be understanding because, you know, when I'm having a bad day, I wish someone was understanding for me. But over the course of time, when it's not reciprocated, I kind of had to come around and just make the decision. And I'm happy because my thing that my dad always said to me, he goes, if people hurt you in your life, you know, God uses it to teach you something. So all you have to do to that person is say thank you and wish them well. And you just move on, just remove yourself from their life and move forward because the only thing you can control is yourself. So I mean, I ended up in San Diego. So if I ended up in like the boondocks, I don't know, like Arkansas, no offense to anyone who lives in Arkansas, but, you know, just somewhere where I had no family and it was, you know, not just by myself and the weather wasn't 75 and sunny every day, I probably would be a little bit more upset. But I got to wake up and look at the ocean from my patio every day. So I'm not that mad.
Yeah. And like perspective is a big thing to me as well. And taking it and looking back at the situations that you're in. And it's easy to say, oh, that was a waste of my time. That was a waste of 3 years, or this was a waste of however much time where you were involved with a relationship or a job or a hobby, whatever it is. And the perspective aspect is important because instead of looking at that as time wasted, you're looking at it as time where you learned and you grew as a person. So it seems like your dad kind of instilled that character set in you. And I honestly, I didn't want to say this on the podcast, but I'm gonna because we're talking about it. But you know, I remember when you posted about your dad, and I was just coming off. Well, I'm still, but coming off like the initial wave from my uncle passing away, and I remember reaching out to you and just saying, "Hey, listen, I'm here." You know, we had spoken a few times, and but wanted to let you know that like, hey, I'm going through the exact same thing right now. I know exactly how you feel, and if you need somebody to talk to, I am 100% down to talk to. Um, and we went back and forth a few times, kind of about some small things, but at least for me, that really helped me in like my grieving process, and the reason is because I have the whiskey community is great, as I'm sure you know. The people that are within the social media sphere of whiskey, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, podcasts, YouTube channels, whatever it is, it's a really tight knit community for the most part, and it's super helpful in those types of situations where I had so many people reaching out to me, offering condolences and you know, offering to help in whatever way, and it's incredibly nice. But knowing that, you know, I could like reach out to you and just say like even if it was like a few sentences and get something off my chest where I knew you knew exactly what I was feeling, it honestly helped me way like looking back on it, which is it was crazy. It was only like probably like 6 or 8 weeks ago, but helped me more than I really I really thought it would. And I wasn't even like reaching out to try to look for
It's
like help. It was just like you were there. I saw that. My heart immediately like sank when I saw that, and just like I don't know. It's just it's funny how that works. It's funny how like when you're like when I'm grieving and I see that, all literally all I want to do is like I want, and I barely even know you, but it's like I want you to feel okay because I am just coming off the tail end of that, what has been the most terrible feeling in my entire life. So
yeah.
I don't really know where I'm going with this, but it just seems like your dad was a great
Well,
guy and he really raised you right. So that was a that's important to me because I'm very close with my parents. My dad is
yeah.
my role
And
model, and
I think what you were saying, it's like one of the deepest human desires is to be known. And I mean, how better can you know someone than through shared experiences? And so when you know someone is sharing the same experience as you, I mean, I can't even imagine. You only have so much emotional bandwidth, and that bandwidth is completely consumed when you're dealing with grief. But when you know that you can just like be understood by someone and not have to explain all of these things and just say like, I'm having a rough day, and that person can be like, I get it. And even if they're not having a rough day, they're like, I was there last week, so like just have the rough day and know you're going to come out of it, because it's waves. You go through it, it comes. Sometimes it's a tidal wave and it just knocks you off your feet, and sometimes like I think my mom was going through like some of his old things, and she sent me this thing. It was literally like a rock that I found when I was little that was like in the shape of a heart that I gave to my dad when I was like 7, and he kept it. And my mom's like, hey, like, did you want to keep this? I think you gave this to him. And I was at work and I literally had to leave because I couldn't stop sobbing. Like I was sobbing uncontrollably at work. And like I was having a great day. Like the pharmacy was caught up, like no one had yelled at me yet. Like, but it's just those small things. And so being in a sphere like in the whiskey community, just one, that you have shared interests, and two, then you can share with people like just your genuine care in it. You feel it. I felt it from so many people who still reach out and just say like, how are you doing, or like, how are things going? And I kind of could tell something was wrong, and like it made me feel good that I wasn't, I mean, I'm the youngest of 7 kids. I'm not alone. I know that. Like I have 6 siblings, but in the sense of being away from them and knowing that I had so many people there that were just like, we're here for you. And supporting me still. Cause it's like, it's new for me. Like I'm not like doing the Instagram thing. So I'd never done it before. So I'm sure as everyone goes through, you feel that initial pressure of posting and doing things and trying to like give thing, because it's like if people are supporting you, you want to reciprocate that and give them something that's worthy of support. And so when I was just like MIA and fell off the edge of the world for like a month, I was kind of like, okay, I want to get back into it. But everyone was just so kind and, accommodating. I just felt really, really cared for. So I'm really appreciative of that.
yeah. Yeah, it's important. The sense of family and kinship has always been incredibly important to me, since I've been a young kid, just to have that support system. Uh, so uh, not to get all morbid and bleak and sad, because that's not what this podcast is about, but that's an important, if we're talking
I mean,
about kind of
it's life. Like life has those things, and so we talk about life, and that
yeah.
just roll with the punches.
Exactly. You talk about life, you roll with the punches, and you just, you keep on living, because at the end of the day, the world doesn't give a shit, which I've learned time and time again with multiple things. The world doesn't care. The world keeps on moving. And, the best that you can do is, you know, honor them by living your best life moving forward.
Yeah,
That's how I
my
look
dad,
at it.
he what he always said is he said, head down, legs moving. You just don't stop. You go, and he said
Yeah.
the only way he goes, the only way to the other side is through. You can't go around it. You have to go through it.
I like
So
that. The only way, yeah, the only way to the other side is through. The only way is through. You should like
yeah,
put that
you
on a,
have to
you should
go
put
through it.
You should put that on a t-shirt and put like a little whiskey glass underneath it, and then put like with liquid pharmacist like on the back or something like that.
Yeah, I could do that.
That would be kind of well. If you don't do it, I might steal it and do it myself. I like that. The only way is through,
The
and
only
then put
way is
like
through.
a half full like whiskey glass.
I like
We
that.
start
Half full,
pumping
it's
some
not half
merch.
empty.
Yeah, I'm a half full kind of guy. Um, but let's get into actual whiskey now, and that's okay. Your
Okay.
dog can bark. All good. If you got to go take care of it, you can take care of it. But
No, she just thinks she hears someone, so she's super tough at 15 pounds.
yeah, oh yeah, those are the mean dogs. Those mean like 10 to like 20 pounds. Those dogs are assholes. If it's smaller than that, it's too small to even live. If it's larger than
Madison.
that, they're usually like sweethearts. Like I had an old English Mastiff growing up. His name was Max, and he was pushing 2 bills. No lie, pushing 200 pounds. So if you got
Yeah,
to
I
do
mean,
something, go ahead. What's she doing?
no, Madison, come here. She's just jumping on me. I'll just show her real quick because she wants to be on the screen. This is Madison.
Hi, Madison. Welcome to Who Gives a Dram. Hey, Madison. I think she heard me.
I think she's like, oh, hey.
But yeah, I had an old English Mastiff growing up, and he was 200 pounds, just about like 180 something.
The
And
big ones, they just are like the sweetest.
he couldn't walk up the stairs, so he'd always like go up. He'd have to like tap his front paws before he could go up, and it'd take him like a solid 2 minutes to like work up the courage. This 200-pound dog
He's
getting up,
just warming it up. Like,
and he's like going up, and he like sometimes he'd like go up one step, but then go back down, and it's like, dude, you're like a quarter of the way there. Just keep going. The only way
just
is
do
through.
it.
And then eventually he would hear me say the only way is through, and he'd just go up the stairs. The four sets of
Oh,
stairs
okay.
in the
Are
backyard.
you just gonna keep saying it so you can say it was yours? It's a good one. I know it's a good one. The only way is
no.
through.
I actually think I'm gonna steal that. I like that a lot. Um,
Go for it.
but to talk about whiskey, so you had the whiskey bar close to your house in San Diego. Was that like the main driving factor of you actually kind of becoming passionate about the spirit? Was it anything else? Like I'm sure you drank whiskey beforehand. What was your first experience with whiskey
I
like?
mean, with whiskey, I mean, so where I grew up, like, we just were obnoxious teenagers. I mean, from the ages 15 to 18, I just drank like vodka and tequila. I honestly don't remember ever drinking whiskey, ever. And then I was in school from 18 to 23. No, well, no, till I was 26 because I did my pharmacy school. And I mean, undergrad in biochemistry and doctorate in pharmacy, some people can go. I couldn't. I commuted 2 hours into Chicago, go to school all day, commuted 2 hours home. So I was commuting 4 hours a day, and I just didn't have the time to like go out. Then I'm trying to think. I mean, honestly, I was like, it literally was like, it wasn't a midlife crisis because I was only like, 30, but I was like, okay, I'm divorced. I'm in a city that I don't, know anyone really. Like, what do I do? What are like things that people get into? Like people get into like smoking meats, people get into crocheting, like, and I was just thinking like, what is a thing that I could kind of start to delve into? And I actually thought about whiskey because I remember in pharmacy school when they taught us during Prohibition, pharmacists were the only ones who could dispense whiskey as a prescription. And so that kind of like, I don't know, that just kind of like thought rung in my head, and I kind of like looked into it and looked in like the whiskey community and just saw how big it was and just how like the vastness of it all. And I love like studying and learning, so I was like, oh, I'm so down for this.
Nerd.
Oh, you have no idea. I'm such a nerd. Like you asked me to explain something, I'm like, oh yes. Oh, you want, okay. When I was a child, just because you called me a nerd, I'm gonna back that up. When I was little, my favorite thing to do as a child was to read instruction manuals. That
Oh,
was my
what
favorite
a
thing to do. No,
nerd.
like that's how my brain works. Is I just like I'm like, oh, I get to learn about something, how it works, how to fix it if it breaks. Like, so yeah, I'm a huge nerd. But yeah, that's how I got into it. I really was just kind of like look. I think I even Googled like hobbies in San Diego, or like, you know, like 30 something hobbies, and like whiskey was on there. And so I was like, all right, it just drew my attention.
That's interesting. You had to Google your passion. That I mean, I can see that. I can see that because there's so many things to do now. Like you could get into like gaming, you could get into to be honest, I don't even know what crocheting is, but yeah, you could get into like knitting. Is that the same thing as knitting?
It's similar. I mean, if you say that to a crocheter, they might punch you, but I pretty, it's the same thing.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. You could get
Um,
into you could get into DIY projects, which you are in, which we'll talk about in a minute.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, honestly, it was a thing like I had a goal where I was like, my goal was I wanted to graduate summa cum laude. That was like, I had it on my wall. I wanted to graduate summa cum laude, and I wanted to have my own pharmacy and be the manager and run it. And that was like my biggest goal since I was like 18. And so I had reached my goal, and like my whole life was school and medicine. And so I was like, I've reached my goal. Kind of like a dog who catches its tail. It's like, what do I do now?
mm,
Like, I just kind of like
yeah,
had got to where I wanted to be, and I didn't know what to do anymore. So yeah, but
yeah,
whiskey has been, I'm obsessed.
yeah. No, and it'll pull you in like that. What's the first whiskey that you remember thinking like, oh, this is one of my favorites?
So oddly enough, the first one that I had is still my favorite to this day, and that's we talked about it for a minute earlier. The Heaven Hill, the Blue Label 7-year bottle and bond, like far and away is my favorite. You get the Trader Joe's dark chocolate 1 pound chocolate bar, and you cut it up and put it in the freezer or the
Mm.
fridge, and I will have that with Heaven Hill till the day I die. Like, you call it a daily drinker, I would drink that daily if it were, I mean, socially acceptable. It is in this community, but maybe
I was
not
gonna say, is
everywhere.
it not socially like, do you not drink whiskey every day?
I mean, I try not to every single day because, fun fact, speaking of being a nerd, when you ingest alcohol, your liver's fat burning capabilities like plummet because your liver detoxifies alcohol and burns fat. Those are its two primary, I mean, it's a detoxifier of drugs and different things, but alcohol is one of them, and burning fat. So when it's busy detoxifying your body from ethanol, alcohol, your fat burning capacity is like really low. So if it kind of gets back on track about 48 to 72 hours after you drink. So it's like if I drank every single day, my workouts that I put in would be like, 60% effective instead of 100% effective. So little science tidbit for
Is
you.
it really ever 100% effective though? Really?
I mean, in the sense of if the efficacy of without alcohol is 100, then with alcohol it's
Okay.
60. Yeah.
Is it worth losing 40% efficiency for the sweet goodness of the water of life? Say less. I actually did not know
Always.
that. That is something that I am learning for the first time, and I come from like I told you before, I my dad is has a bunch of medical degrees and knows all this type of stuff as well, just like you, kind of being nerdy and well versed in that area. He never bothered to tell me that. So, all this
Well,
time
that's
I'm
why
trying
you
to get
see people
shred
who
city
start
over here.
drinking. Yeah, you see people who like drink, even just occasionally, they get like beer bellies, or girls in college get the freshman 15. It's just because of the alcohol. Like, even if you're eating pretty well and working out, it's like your body's going to hold on to fat because your liver isn't going to be able to break it down as effectively. It's not going to like induce lipolysis. So, yeah, it's
That's interesting. I think most people, including myself, just imagine that freshman 15 or that beer belly. It's just like literally what it is. It's drinking beer, it's drinking things that like have those added
sweeteners or
Yeah, like that. Like, but have those just almost like a denser viscosity to them. Whereas whiskey is all natural. There's not, there's no legally there cannot be any added flavorings, added colorings. Like it's
yeah.
about as natural as a spirit can get, and it's the most by far the most sophisticated, beverage out there in terms of how it's produced. Um, so my thinking was, and I've read articles I've read plenty of articles to try to legitimize not legitimize to try to prove myself right in the fact that maybe drinking every day isn't bad. And there's several studies out there that show that, drinking, it never said a specific amount of whiskey or wine, but drinking a little bit every night actually has health benefits. There's also downsides, obviously, but it does have benefits in different areas, just like smoking cigars, which I don't think you do, but I do, raises your testosterone levels. So yes, will it give you, but if you smoke a bunch, will it give you mouth cancer? Yeah, but you're gonna be teed up. Like you're gonna have that testosterone running through you. So I think
Got
it's
that high tea.
yeah, I think I consider it healthy to have a little dram, a cigar occasionally, maybe like once a week. And I'm a big coffee drinker, so I'll drink like 8 cups of
Love
coffee a
coffee.
day.
Oh yeah, I have
Yeah,
an espresso too, so I'm super obsessed. And
yeah.
honestly, like what you're saying, like that's another thing that I liked so much about it because some people get into like craft beer or whatever, like which is fine. Like that's what you like, that's what you like. But for me, I'm like I can have, a little bit of whiskey. I can enjoy the flavor. You get that Kentucky hug, like you feel good, and it just like calms you down from the day, especially in the wintertime. I mean, it's just perfection.
Well, not in
But
San Diego, but in Chicago, yeah.
hey, it gets down to like the 40s sometimes.
Oh man, rough. When was the last time you had to wipe snow off your windshield?
Pass. But
Good
yeah,
point.
and that's why I like it so much because I mean, you can see I love research and studies, and it doesn't make me feel because I've had real bad hangovers before. Like
Mm,
I don't not from whiskey, but I'm saying when I have whiskey, just you can have a little bit, you don't feel horrendous the next day. So I appreciate that
exactly.
about it.
That's a great point. And also the key to if you know you're going to be hammering a lot of whiskey, is before you drink, you smash a liquid IV, and then the next morning with your coffee, you smash another liquid IV, and you take 2 Advil the night before, and then if needed, you'll take 2 Advil the next day, and it's like you didn't even drink.
It's
That's
amazing.
proven. I don't need you to tell me that's wrong. That's proven. I don't want you to change my opinion on it. That's my remedy. That's my secret. Now it's not a secret because a bunch of people are going to
That
hear
is your
that. But
truth, and I live in San Diego, and so I support your truth.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad I didn't offend you. But uh, is it like when you say like the liver stops burning fat? Is it after a certain amount of alcohol, or is it one sip of alcohol and you're
So
done?
it's completely on a sliding scale. It's different. Everyone's genetics is different too. So some people, I mean, I got my genome sequence back when I was 23, and I love, again, I'm super nerd. I love reading my genetic code because even when you can read your genetic code, like you can look at different studies and see, if you have this, it's called a SNP, a single nucleotide polymorphism. If you have one of those things, I know, this is what I enjoy. You wanted me on, this is me. Basically, if you have certain, changes in your genetic code, you process alcohol better or worse, or, all of these different things. So one person could have an ounce of whiskey and be totally fine. Another person could have an ounce of whiskey and literally just like die the next day, like die in the sense of feel
So,
horrible.
okay, two things. One, say that 5 times fast. Go.
Single nucleotide polymorphism, that
Yeah,
one.
go. Yeah.
Again, single nucleotide polymorphism, single nucleotide polymorphism, single nucleotide polymorphism, single nucleotide polymorphism, single nucleotide polymorphism.
Nice. I'm impressed. Didn't think you
Yay.
could do it. Um, And also, so are you saying that the efficiency of your liver to burn fat while drinking alcohol is completely dependent on what most people call their tolerance, but what is actually your genetic makeup of how you are processing whiskey? So if I can
Yeah.
naturally drink a dram and feel fine the next day, does that mean my liver is working more efficiently throughout the drinking? Whereas if someone else were to drink a dram, say like a smaller female, and they are feeling it the next day, then their liver was not working as efficiently. Is that what you're saying, or am I way off?
So, so no, it's not so much that it's not working efficiently as efficiently. We have enzymes in our liver and just throughout our body that break down toxins, and alcohol is classified as a toxin, the ethanol within the alcohol or within, the spirits. And so when your body is breaking down a certain amount, it will upregulate certain enzymes. That's why the tolerance is, if you drink often enough, your body's going to be able, it's going to take more for you to feel that, that same amount of intoxication per se. But there is a point that when you're doing that, yes, you may upregulate those enzymes and can detoxify it. And, I guess you could say it's more efficient, but at the end of the day, you're still causing in excess quantities, causing damage to the liver because it's a toxin and it's breaking down the toxin, and it's still causing damage while before it's being broken down into those inert byproducts. It's still a toxin to begin with. So it's not saying like, yeah, pound your liver super hard and it's going to get way stronger. No, it's a thing of like, if you do it on a semi-regular basis, you are going to have more of those enzymes. It's almost like similar, for the layperson to understand, like with lactose intolerance. The reason people grow lactose intolerant is because the lactase enzyme that breaks down lactose is, you don't use it once you stop drinking milk as a baby. And if you don't pound milk like we did in the 90s or eat a bunch of cheese, your body's going to be like, hey, I don't need this enzyme sitting around. It's not doing anything. So then you reintroduce milk or whatever into your body after you haven't had it for a long time, and your body is just destroyed by it because it's like, we don't have enzymes to break this down, and then the bacteria in your gut eat it and it causes, bloating and all that.
Super interesting. Super interesting. I have been on record, and I'm pretty famously known to have said there's only four things on this beautiful planet of ours four liquids that I consume: whiskey, water, coffee, and Metamucil. I've said that on record several times that that's what I drink. Um, However, I want to change that to two more things because I should have added two more things onto that back like a year ago when I originally said that statement. Um, I want to add both orange juice and milk to that because even more so lately, I try to drink like a full glass of whole milk every single day. I think milk is delicious. And I don't understand. Well, I do understand why people don't like milk because it's coming from like the way that we get it is pretty disgusting. But if you just kind of block that out or you accept it,
Buy your own cow, it's fine.
exactly, exactly. And it's like it's so like there's so many nutrients in milk. It's so nutrient dense. There's so many different, and you can probably speak on this a bit more than I can, but like so many different hormones that you get, so many things that milk gives you that other drinks don't, that, you know, drinking something like soy milk or almond milk, which doesn't even make sense to me. Just like it doesn't compare. I've had all of them. Oat milk, uh, goat milk, straight cow milk, whole cow milk, I think is like, you know how kale is a superfood? I would say milk is a super beverage.
I just think that it's interesting that milk is literally the only beverage that has had an entire marketing campaign for like a decade to just not even like a brand, just the drink itself, like the Got Milk. It was literally just like, just drink milk. We don't care what kind, we don't care what it is, just that's all that matters. It's
Yeah.
really, I mean, think about it. There's no other liquid on this planet than milk that's had its own marketing campaign.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, besides maybe water, just naturally. like drink
Yeah.
water, but definitely not definitely not coffee. It's always a brand of coffee.
Hmm.
Definitely not Metamucil because that is a brand. And orange juice, no, it's more like
Orange
vitamin C.
juice, actually, I mean, fruit juice in general, just so you know, actually helps your body process alcohol more efficiently. So that next morning, you should drink a big cup of your favorite juice. I mean, look at that. You're
Oh,
already ahead of the curve and you didn't even know it.
wow. So what does that make a mimosa?
A mimosa, you just even. That's
Okay,
it.
so it just evens itself out. So if you drink a mimosa, if you drink a screwdriver, you're kind of like it's canceling out the bad enzymes or from the alcohol or the what was it from the
I
alcohol
mean, it
again?
does. It's not comparable. I mean, the toxins of alcohol, like
The toxins, yeah.
there's still toxins in it, but it's just when your body begins to process and break it down, having fruit juice, what's in it, the fruit sugars that are in it, fructose and things. Fructose helps your body break down ethanol more efficiently. So.
So what's is pulp orange juice better than no pulp orange juice in that respect
No,
or
I mean, it's just regular, real fruit juice is most important because it needs fructose, which is fruit sugar, and not like sucrose, which is just like white sugar. So fructose is
so
the thing that
Tropicana orange juice
helps.
is okay?
Oh yeah, any kind of orange juice, as long as it's just made from oranges and not like is
Not like
not like
Sunny D.
what's yeah, that's the one.
Sunny D, yeah. It's like how they say Yoo-hoo is real chocolate milk when one of the like you read the ingredients and milk is not on there. You don't know what it is. It's like chocolate flavored water with like milk flavoring.
Literally. Yeah, with
Gross.
like a thickener. Yeah, no, I'm not down on that.
Well, it's actually delicious, but like if you look at what's in it, it's gross. Um, Speaking about delicious, if you were to tell me, Connor, these are my five favorite whiskeys, what are you picking?
Okay, so definitely, of course, Heaven Hill. Rittenhouse is my favorite for old fashions. I love everything out of the Heaven Hill distillery. Just like their
Mhm.
flavor profile, just like jives so well with me. And again, that has to do with genetics, but we won't get into that. So
No,
those
why does it have to do
two.
with genetics?
Well, it's
I'm
just because
interested.
the taste, I mean, it's the taste buds that you have, the way that you perceive taste is not the same as everyone else. So you could have something, and that's why people get different flavor notes and flavor profiles just because the genetics of the amount of taste buds you have, the concentration they have on the areas of your tongue, how long you hold it in your mouth, all of that is going to be different from person to person. Now, there are obviously overlaps because we have a lot of shared experiences. So we know the flavor of something as the flavor of something. You know, you could say the flavor of watermelon, you could know what that is. But at the end of the day, just because every genetic makeup is different, people are going to get different flavors when they taste it. So something that I find extremely enjoyable, someone else could be like, I think that that's horrible because there's a million different factors that play into it, but it doesn't it's not perceived by their brain and by their taste buds as good. It's like, I don't like that. So,
Right,
I
that makes
mean,
sense. Yeah, I've actually never thought about it that way. It's the taste is the same. Like the actual taste of a certain whiskey is not different between you and me. It's how our body perceives the taste that is
mm-hmm,
different for you and for me. Because I don't really like
yeah.
Rittenhouse that much. So that's just the way my body is producing that mediocre rye, where you are saying, give me this rye in my old fashioned. I don't even really like
Yeah.
old fashions, to be completely honest with you.
I have a problem with another fun fact. I'm obsessed with sugar. Anything that has sugar in it, like I love
Oh, that's
donuts so much.
well,
Like
really, you like donuts.
more than anything, donuts. Like when I like my boyfriend in high school, like he bought me a dozen donuts instead of a dozen roses because that's what I wanted, and I ate them all because I love donuts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I never met a person in on this planet that doesn't like a donut. If someone says they don't like a donut, for sure don't trust them. Like
Mm-mm.
if someone said, "Oh yeah, no, I don't care." I don't honestly, I don't even care if it was like my aunt or something or like even like my mom. She's like, oh, I just don't like donuts.
Donuts is where we
And I'm
draw the
like,
line.
it's like, okay, or you don't like donuts. All right, obviously I'm not letting you see my kids. Like that's something's wrong with you. So we're just gonna cut this off right now. You're not my friend. Um, so right now we have Heaven Hill 7 Year Bottle and Bond, and we have Rittenhouse Rye for your old fashions.
Yes. So this one, I mean, I can't, this one no one's going to know, and it's only my favorite because I made it. I went to Bourbon 30 in Georgetown and made my own, and it was incredible. And it's like,
Hmm.
it was the most fun. That Bourbon 30, like the crew there, I love them.
What's
Went
Bourbon
in like,
30?
excuse me? You don't know about Bourbon 30? So,
Are you
like,
supposed to be
Bourbon
30 to know
30,
about it or something? I don't know.
no, it's like, what time is it? It's Bourbon 30, you know?
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Yeah, I don't
So,
know.
it was on recommendation of a friend, went in like right before they closed. They stayed after they closed for like, I don't know, 3 hours. Just like,
Wow.
it's just, imagine a room full of barrels, just full of barrels. And you just can whiskey thieve, like whatever. You try and you taste and you mix, and it's like, they just have like stickers on it with like the proof and like what it is, how long it's aged, and it's all over. And you kind of say like, I like this, and they're like, oh, if you like this, you should try this. And then you get to mix it, you get to make your own. And they say, okay, so this is 25% this, 50% this, and you make your own whiskey blend. And they have the little thing that checks the proof on it, that little like floater thing. So you put in there, they bottle it, you check the proof. They have like 30 different wax colors you can choose from. So you bottle it yourself, you do the wax yourself, you name it yourself. You can make multiple. I made like 6 bottles, and it was incredible. So it's like you get to name them all, and they're all like one of one or one of 6 if you do like a series of the same one. And I made one, and it was on Bottled and Bond Day, the 125th anniversary, and it was BIB 25, and that's like, and you have the char in there, like it's unfiltered because it's straight, you thieve it straight from the barrel. That was one of my favorite experiences, and I think they're opening one in Louisville too, but yeah, right now I think they're just in Georgetown, but it was
Georgetown,
my
Kentucky.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
Georgetown,
Okay.
Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, I was there. They just stayed like afterwards, and we hung out with them, and like it was super fun. The people there are super fun. What they do is super cool, and just like making your own, like truly being able to blend it yourself. And it's affordable in the sense of like a single 30 something can, pay for it. And you're paying for the tasting, you're paying for the bottle and everything, but the experience was just unforgettable. So I have like this much left, and that's because I drank it all the time because it was just so good. I mean, you get to tailor it specifically to your like wants. So that was another one I like a lot.
Well, shout out to Bourbon 30. I mean, that's so I've had the pleasure of, picking out a barrel for a single barrel through Bradshaw Bourbon for our charity event last year. Um, and we went down to well, uh, I suppose it's still Green River Distillery in Owensboro, Kentucky, that just got bought out by Bardstown. But this was before it got bought out by Bardstown. So Jacob Call was still there, their master distiller, who's just like one of those guys where it's like you're a nerd, like you're a pharmaceutical nerd, he's a whiskey nerd. Like he's
Yeah.
just like whiskey, 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 8 generations. Brilliant guy, very nice guy. But being in his rick house with his 3 to 4 year old barrels, 4 lined up for Paul and I, and just thieving right out of the barrel and choosing our own whiskey to be bottled with our logo on it is kind of a similar experience. I think blending would be different just because you get to experiment with different aspects of different whiskeys, obviously. But there is something to be said from taking, whiskey and thieving it right out of a barrel and drinking it straight right then and there. When we were in Scotland, we were I'm not sure if you are familiar with any scotches, but we went to Islay, and we went to Lagavulin. That was our first stop in Isla. Lagavulin is the Scotch brand that partners with Nick Offerman, who is uh, I forgot his guy's name in Parks and Rec. Um, anyways,
Oh,
he
Ron Swanson.
yes, yes. So they partner with Nick Offerman. He has a couple new releases. He's like their celebrity ambassador, kind of. Lagavulin's a big deal in Scotch, and we went to Lagavulin. It was like 9 a.m. and we went. Told them we were there. They brought us around. We went to the warehouse, and they were about to do like a public tasting in like 30 minutes. And we went there, and there's a guy who's like 4'8". His name was Ian. And he's like, yeah, I've been work. Well, I learned at first. I asked him how long he's been working there, and he said, oh, I've been working here for a wee bit. And that tells me like, okay, maybe I shouldn't ask him exactly how long he's been working here. Come to find out, he's been there for 52 years, and we're in this legendary warehouse. We're surrounded by all this incredible scotch, and he just has barrels lined up, and he takes the cork out of one of the barrels and goes, "You guys want some of this 17-year sherry butt finished whiskey?" And we're like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
It's oh, what time is it? 9:30 a.m. Yeah, for sure. Give me some. And then we're drinking that straight out of the barrel. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you guys, I just opened up this 25-year um uh barrel proof straight from the barrel. Do you guys want some of this as well? Yes, please.
Hmm.
So again, he just thieves it right out, and we're sitting there having good conversation within the rick house of Lagavulin, overlooking the ocean. And it's just like one of those things where I think if I had to pick a few of my happy places, like a rick house would be one of them, and a warehouse storing barrels and just being around barrels is just cool to me. Where there's liquid aging in that barrel that somebody put a lot of time and effort into. Um, I think that's why I like whiskey so much because it's such a meticulous spirit. There's so much work that goes into even the larger name brands where it's an art, not so much a an industry. It's more of an art. I
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
but that the reason I bring that up is because that made you saying being in blind in Bourbon 30 reminded me of my own experiences with being in these rick houses. But being able to blend sounds cool. I might have to check that out. I think I'll be in Kentucky in February, so I'll have to
Yeah,
check that
it's
out.
definitely worth the stop. And I know they were talking about having one in Louisville too, also. And so I would highly recommend. And their t-shirts are super soft. Of all I bought like 20 shirts. Theirs was the softest
Jeez.
one. I like whiskey shirts.
So I'll have to send you a shirt. So we got Heaven Hill, 7-year bottle and bond. We have uh Rittenhouse
Rittenhouse.
Rye. In your own personal blend, how modest of you. That's one of your favorite whiskeys. So you have two more.
I know, so modest. Humility is my strong suit. Two more. So, I mean, right now, and it's always been my favorite, I kind of go back to, and it's a bit cliche, but the Angel's Envy Rye, I just love it because around this time, especially, it's like Christmassy because it's finished in those Caribbean rum barrels and it's like cinnamony almost.
Mhm.
That one is just, I love it because it's just super cozy and warm and has that burst of flavor. And I mean, I want to try and find some way to meld it into some sort of like cider or something like apple cider or something like that because I feel like it would blend super well in that. And
The finishing in rum cast is definitely different. If you like Angel's Envy Rye, I'm going to counter you with something that is craft. You should be able to find in California, and the guys that own it are fucking G's. They're the best, and it's this brand, Rye 3. This is their cask
Rye
strength.
three.
This is a private barrel. Um, like one of the top craft brands out there right now. Like I compare Rye 3 to like Penelope and Smoke Wagon and all of these kind of larger craft distilleries.
Yeah.
Um, Rye 3 is aged in their own award-winning rum casks. So it's a rum cask finished rye whiskey, and I think it's better than Angel's Envy Rye. That's just me. I'm being a little biased. They've been on the
Well,
show,
I've
so
never tried it, so I mean, TBD. Like, I will report back.
you definitely should try it. So what's the
Yeah.
fifth?
And
What's the fifth one?
the fifth one, the last one. Um, Gosh, I mean, there's a lot of good ones. I'm trying to think of oh, I know. So, Bardstown Bourbon Company, Discovery number 7. Like, it was the first one that I had. Again, it's a blended whiskey. But it has this portion that's 100% Canadian corn whiskey. And like, it's so crazy because, you get a Kentucky Hug and sometimes they're super harsh and sometimes they're like mellow, but like the burn or, what have you, when you drink it, it goes down and dissipates pretty quickly. I don't know if it's just me, but the Discovery 7 from Bardstown Bourbon Company, like I drink it and it has such good flavor, and the Kentucky Hug at the end, and it may just be the corn, the corn whiskey, but it just like lasts and persists and just stays, and it's like warm in your chest for like a minute or two. And like, oh, that's a long time to just kind of be sitting, and like after you're sipping, you're done and it's still there. And it's not like a harsh, like it's burning. It's like just a warmth. And I'd never had that in any other whiskey. So I mean, I actually accidentally walked into their whiskey tasting with Mike. He had just won the World Whiskey Tasting, and him and oh gosh, why can't I remember? I know his Instagram is the ADHD whiskey, but them two and Brandon and Steve Nally, the master distiller, were blending their own. And I like walked into the wrong room. I'm like, is this where the bathroom's at? They're like, no, but you want to try? And so I like accidentally walked into their like blending thing, and I got to taste that. So that was an experience and a half. But yeah, no, just like I love the Bardstown Bourbon Company Discovery number 7. That's definitely in my top 5 for sure.
If you're a fan of, I know you say Canadian 100% corn, but if you're a fan of corn whiskey, you need to try you some mellow corn.
It's out of Heaven Hill Distillery, isn't it?
It sure is.
So I'm sure I'm going to love it because everything out of Heaven Hill I love.
Well, there you go. You need to try it, and
It's on the
probably
list.
it's like a $12 to $15 bottle. I'm sure in San Diego it's probably $38. But why is everything so expensive in California?
I don't know. I mean, lucky for me, like that's another thing that's nice. Like I get paid way more here than I do anywhere else. So I'm like, I really want to move because I'd be having the same like quality of life, but wouldn't have the nice weather.
But aren't things more expensive?
Yeah. So I'd be pretty much the same. I'd make less somewhere else and it would be less expensive, but then I just wouldn't have the weather. So, but that's being a pharmacist. I can't speak to other professions, but definitely I don't know why it's so expensive. Like, and it keeps getting more expensive. Like I had my house for 3-4 years, something like that. And it almost doubled when I sold it. The price almost doubled in 4 years. So I'm like, I don't know. Would not recommend moving here, but starting your life here and then moving out to like Texas or Wyoming, like that would be nice. That's a goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the current, White House and your governor doesn't help at all either. So that's another thing to be said about that. But before I let you go, because I think it's been over an hour. We've been talking for a while.
Yeah, I'm chatty.
So am I. That's not a good combo. I could talk for a while.
Just exponentially.
Exactly. Yeah. But so with the Liquid Pharmacist, I look at that and to me, it seems like this is just a page where, you want to express your love for whiskey, you want to post pictures, you want to connect with people in the whiskey world. Do you have any plans at all to do anything else within this particular space? Like, have you ever thought about anything? Is there a path you potentially see yourself or like the liquid pharmacist going down? Like, do you even consider it like a brand or anything? Do you have any ambitions or any goals to do anything with that?
I mean, I think that's the first time I've even thought about that. So I mean, bear with me for a minute. I never really thought about it. It's something too where I'm so much more of like a giver and a helper that like thinking of something to like prop myself up is kind of like it's just not how my brain works. I'm always like, how can I help you? What can I do for you? So thinking like, how can I build my own brand? I'm like, I don't know. It would definitely be really cool, and I would love to like just get to know more people and have a further reach because I do enjoy it, and I do enjoy the community and trying new whiskeys, and I understand 1000% how new I am to it, and I just wanted to really share my genuine enjoyment for it and connect with people who had that same type of genuine enjoyment because there's a whole variety of whiskey pages, and I mean I'm a female and it's traditionally male, which is fine, like, and I'm not trying to be like move over boys, like I'm happy, I'm very content with my femininity, and I'm a woman, and like I'm a woman who likes whiskey, and I like just all the females too that I've met. Like it's a really good space to be in. I guess I'm still just trying to think if I want to do anything. I guess I'll have to get back to you because I hadn't even considered it. If the opportunity presented itself, I'm sure like I would jump at it, but it's just something for myself, like where I'm at capacity wise with running the pharmacy, especially right now where everyone is so sick. It's like I couldn't imagine taking on another project, but definitely if it were something that fit in and I could do with relative ease, because that's my thing too. I never wanted to portray anything that wasn't myself and portray anything that wasn't sustainable. I want to post what I want to post and kind of just drink what and when I want to drink. So all that to say, yes, I would like to do something. When or what, I have no idea.
Well, yeah, the reason I ask is because I find you to be kind of like when you talk, I listen type of thing. And it's like that sometimes that's a bit of a sometimes people can kind of just ramble on and they're not coherent and there's no larger point to what they're saying. Whereas, with you, I just feel like there's with me, I created my Instagram knowing I was trying to build Who Gives a Dram, and then that grew into trying to build Bourbon with Friends. And, thankfully I've been, semi-successful with both. But I look at like my mindset is I got into this with the purpose of building a brand, not just a personal page. Whereas you're on the opposite. This is a personal page, but there's definitely something there where I feel like, whatever you decide to do, I think you'll kill it. Like I feel like you're that type of person where like you're a huge nerd, right? So whatever you put your mind to, you'll kind of obsess over it in a good way. Um, so I think that there's a lot of potential for like if that was something that you wanted to go down with like the Liquid Pharmacist being a brand. And again, I don't know what it would be, but I'm just thinking out loud. That would be like that's a solid start. You have all the things to start. It's just figuring out what way you want to go down, whether it's like a YouTube channel, which you already have, or you had a podcast, a TikTok thing, like Ryan, that one dude Ryan does, or like something where you find your niche and you find your audience. If that's even something that you do that you want to do, I feel like you could be successful with it if that, but I
Yeah.
imagine running the pharmacy in California of all places is a daunting task in of it itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess this is my first real like exposure in a sense. I mean, I post things about my life and maybe videos, but I think this is the first time people are gonna kind of get
I
to
had
know who I am. And
I had never heard your voice before. Like we logged
yeah,
into Zoom. I didn't know what you sounded like. So like, I was just like,
yeah,
I don't know what's gonna happen here, but we're just gonna go with it. Um,
yeah. So, well, and that's, I guess you can tell me how the feedback is and people can reach out and let me know if they enjoyed it and if they think I should do more. Like I said, I'm more of a giver. I told you I have a servant's heart, a giver and a helper. So if I can do something that brings joy to other people, like I would love to do that. It's just I have no desires of my own to prop my own brand up just because I don't my mind doesn't work that way. So I don't really know how to do it.
it's funny you don't think that way because you're such like a positive person, and which is probably why you don't think that way because you're thinking of others before yourself, and that's because you have a B positive attitude and a B positive blood type. So
That's right.
on that note, thank you for joining the show. I really appreciate it. Tell people, we've said it a million times, but tell people where they can follow you um on
Oh,
Instagram and
me?
what you like to post. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram at the Liquid Pharmacist, and I just kind of post when I go out, when I get a drink, when I'm home. I'll post a lot on my story of my dog because I love her, and yeah, I just try and share my life and my love of whiskey and connect with people who, enjoy the same thing.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, thanks again for coming on. It was really nice meeting you in person. And you're welcome back whenever you want to come on. I feel like we could have talked for like another 2 hours about several different subjects, and maybe we can do that at another time. But for everybody watching on YouTube and listening, thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe. And always remember, whiskey's the water of life. So let's start living.